Alrighty, we're recording. Let's get the show on the road. So, everybody, thank you so much, firstly, for signing up to the webinar. So, whether you are listening on demand, watching on demand, you're taking us in your ears on a dog walk with you, or if you're here live on with us on a Friday morning, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. These webinars are one of my favorite bits of my whole job. I get to curate the content that I wish I had when I was starting, scaling, growing a business. I had to go and do an MBA to find this content because it just wasn't available for me on the internet, especially not free content with like just nice people and networking surrounding it as well. And so this is one of literally the best bits of my job. So for anybody that doesn't know, my name is Rachel. I am a disruptor in the accounting space. So I'm just trying to bring financial education to the people who need it the most at really affordable options. Lots and lots and lots of the content that I create completely free of charge on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, to just spread the message that firstly, being an accountant is the best job in the world, and that actually you don't need to look like a stale pale male to do it, but also that if you're a small business owner and you've got no bloody idea what you're doing, lots of people don't either, and it's our job to just teach you the stuff that we aren't taught at school in a way that really empowers you, makes you feel confident, and actually you probably make some friends along the way. So these webinars are run by us for you. We pick our most talented, enthusiastic, service-based clients, and we put them in front of you guys to just answer the questions and like bring you into parts of business life that you might be quite interested in, but you might not have the confidence to actually book a sales call with somebody. You just want to be a bit of a lurker, like on LinkedIn, and just see what people are up to. So I am so excited to introduce you to Mr. Jason Mountford.
Mute myself. Hello. I think most of you were on the sort of networking chat beforehand. So yeah, I am pale and I am a male, so I have to work very hard not to be stale. I guess that's
He's not stale.
Plan for today. So let me just see if I can get this to work. Right, can everybody see that?
Yes, yeah, we can.
Good stuff. So that is the title for the topic for my presentation today. Never pitch again. And I'm going to get into why, but I probably don't need to. Is that pitching for business is like really, really tough, right? Especially if you're newer, your business is on the newer side. You know, one of the most difficult things is getting new clients. And I want to show you one of the ways that has worked well for me and essentially what I do for clients now. So my name is Jason. I'm the founder and head copywriter at a company called Hedge. We are a content writing and copywriting agency. I live in, despite my accent, I live in Manchester, and I've got a team of four other writers who work with me, and we specialize in the finance space. So my clients, kind of, I think what I said at the start was that if there could possibly be a pound sign or a dollar sign in your content, we can help with that. So a number of my clients are financial planning firms. We've got some investment trading apps. We've got payment providers, kind of like PayPal type services that do international payments and that sort of thing, accountancy practices. That's what my background is. I was in wealth management for 15 years before I made the jump into writing full time, and it's what my writers specialize in too. So the idea of that is just means we know those businesses very well, and we can create content and work really efficiently with the companies in that space. So I shared a little bit about how I got into this beforehand, but the really short version is that Rachel interviewed me for my own podcast that I had at the time, when I was a financial planner, and I realized that I really wasn't passionate about it. And what I was passionate about was creating content, especially writing. And so over the last 3 years, I've been doing a bit of that on the side, and really over the last 12 to 18 months, that's become a full-time thing. And as I say, the business is growing all the time. So very exciting time for me. And I just think there's a huge amount of potential out there for businesses to use content. And that's probably not a new message. Everybody knows that they need to be, doing content marketing, but I think the humble blog has become a bit of it's fallen out of fashion in a lot of ways, but actually the biggest businesses that you will know, the household names, invest very heavily into long form written content and SEO and that sort of thing. And I think for smaller businesses, it's definitely a big opportunity. So that's what I want to go over with you today. If you have any questions, we're going to do like a question and answer session at the end. But by the same token, if there's just something you just have to ask, then feel free to drop it in the chat, and I'm more than happy to have a kind of free flowing kind of session as well. So what am I going to talk about today? So I want to talk about why inbound marketing. So I want to talk a little bit about the difference between inbound and outbound. I don't think there's anything wrong with either, but I think it's important to look at the differences. More broadly, I want to talk about content marketing. Again, that's probably something that a lot of you are already doing, or you understand that you need to be doing, but I just want to kind of distill that down. And then look at what I call the channel dilemma. So should you focus really strongly on one channel, or should you try and be everywhere all at once? And then, of course, I'm going to talk about long form written content, because that's my favorite. I want to talk about why I think it's so awesome, why you should be considering doing it, and how it can help you build a really successful long-term kind of inbound pipeline for your business. You can't talk about long form written content without talking about Google and SEO, because that's how a lot of people will find it. I'm going to go over a bit of a case study, which is my own website that I started at the start of this year to kind of test my thesis and my theory of what my business is based on. So I'm going to go into some facts and figures, and you can see my Google Analytics and see in real figures behind the scenes of how it can work. And then I want to finish off with making some practical takeaways for you of how you can implement this in your own business. So I'm going to go over a simple plan of how you can start creating your own company blog or your own long form written content, and then also some ways you can repurpose that. I'm very much a fan of practical. I don't like to just talk about theory and this is how it can work. I want to give you actionable steps so that if you want to, you can come away from today and do this for yourself. As well, if at the end of this, if you want to ask more questions, if you want to book in some time with me, even if you're not in the finance space and you're not potentially my client, that's not what I mean at all. I just mean if you want to book some time and just have a chat and talk through your plan, then I'm definitely happy to do that too. So why inbound? So inbound versus outbound, let's start with just kind of defining what that is. So outbound is probably your more traditional, old school form of finding new clients. And that's where you are going out and seeking those clients out yourself. And generally speaking, that's a very one-on-one process. So it's like going to networking events, like handing out business cards, like, we used to. It's, getting in touch with your network. So jumping on the phone or getting on LinkedIn and people you used to work with and saying, hey, I've got this accountancy business, I've got this personal training business. Let me know if you have anyone, or would you like to come and chat to me about becoming a client? So it's very much that kind of outreach kind of process. Inbound, on the other hand, is creating a way for clients to come and find you. So there's lots of different ways to do that, which we'll go over, but things like creating social media content, having a podcast, having a blog, where you are attracting people in some way. And then they're coming to you. It can also be like paid advertising. So again, that's inbound. You're paying money for the reach. You're putting ads on Google. You're putting a billboard on the side of the road, whatever the case may be. But the idea is you're kind of putting it out there and then expecting people to come in and see you. The reason why I much prefer inbound is because pitching sucks, right? Like going out and trying to get clients one by one is really, really tough. And that's not to say you can get away with never doing it, especially if you're early in your kind of business journey. Like the reality is that's what we all have to do. I still do that. I still do outbound. And that's just because I haven't had enough time where I get all of my leads from inbound. I get lots from inbound, but I'm still going out and doing outbound. And I think there's always going to be an element of that, especially if you are an ambitious business. You will always want to be looking for clients that are maybe a little bit above what your current business level is at, right? So, let's say you're a business to business company and you're currently looking at companies that have up to 10 million in revenue, for example. and you've got your eye on like an amazing client that's like 50 million revenue, you're probably going to go out and have to pitch those. So there's always going to be a balance, but if you can get to the point where the majority of your business is inbound, it's going to make your life a lot easier. And outbound generation takes a lot of time. Like you've got to be pounding the pavement, you've got to be getting in those LinkedIn DMs or those Instagram DMs, and that will never get easier because it's very one-to-one. It's not scalable. And hopefully you get to the point in your business where you just do not have the time because you've got so many existing clients, you don't have the time to be doing that. Inbound, on the other hand, because it's content, because it's by definition to a wide audience, it's almost infinitely scalable. Paid acquisition is an option, but it's very expensive. And as you get larger, it gets more expensive. So it's one of those weird things where normally as you scale things, they become cheaper. Paid acquisition doesn't work like that. Inbound conversion rates are much higher. If you're going out to somebody cold, you're going to convert a much lower percentage of those than people who are literally coming in to speak specifically to you. And then the last one, which is a little bit different, is that there's additional opportunities in addition to your core business. And throughout this today, I'm going to be picking on Rachel a lot, but like she's a really good example of this, right? So she does a lot of content, which creates a really amazing inbound sales funnel for her business, StriveX. But off the back of that, we've seen some of the amazing things that she's been able to achieve and accomplish off the back of that content. The types of awards she's won. The accountantshe board that she's now director of, or a trustee. I'm not sure the perfect right term there, but all those things can come from becoming a well-known person in your industry, which is in addition to bringing in revenue for your core business. So let's first talk about what is content marketing. I'm not going to spend ages on this because we all probably know this, but I just wanted to pick out this definition from the Content Marketing Institute. It's a strategic marketing approach focused on creating and distributing valuable and relevant and consistent content to attract and retain a clearly defined audience, and ultimately to drive profitable customer action. And really the reason why I wanted to highlight this is just because of those three words that I've bolded there. So content marketing is about providing value. It's about being relevant. So that's about defining who that content is for, who your audience is, and it's about being consistent. And if you can get those three things right, then that is going to drive a lot of value for your business. And every time you're creating a piece of content, for me, it's really useful to think of those three things. Is this valuable to my target audience? Is it relevant? So is it tailored to a specific group of people who I'm trying to attract? And am I being consistent with it? So the channel dilemma. So this is one of the most common things that comes up when people are thinking about starting a content marketing strategy is, do I really focus hard on like one channel, or do I try and be everywhere? Now, I think you can do a little bit of both. You can repurpose content fairly well these days, and I'm going to talk about that today. But I think, the first option is to specialize in a single channel and just dominate it and become really, really strong and well-known in that channel. It could be Instagram. It could be a podcast, it could be a blog, it could be LinkedIn, it could be any channel, as long as that channel is where your clients are. And then the second is to try and create video for YouTube, bring that, cut that down into shorts for YouTube Shorts, for TikTok, for Instagram Reels, create text posts, be on Instagram Stories, have a blog, put that on LinkedIn, take snippets for Twitter. You can definitely do that, but that comes with a lot of challenges as well. So there's no right or wrong for any of this. But each has some pros and cons. So number one, obviously, going deep, but specific, allows you to become an expert on that channel. So they all are different, and different types of content works differently on YouTube as it does on Instagram and LinkedIn. And so by focusing on one, it means you can really understand what works. You can really understand what doesn't work, how to get more interaction. That means your content will be better, and it means that you're going to be more efficient with it as well, because you're going to have a higher percentage of your content that works compared to that doesn't. And because of all that, because you get better at it, it means you will probably grow your audience faster. The downsides are that you are kind of taking a bet on that channel. So there is the chance that you'll miss some leads for clients who aren't on that channel. That's a given, but hopefully you can potentially minimize that from the second point there, which is requiring research on your target market. So as long as you have a good understanding of your target market, you can mitigate some of that, but you're always going to miss out on some potential new clients if you're only focusing on one channel. And a very small percentage of that audience you build on that channel will cross over to additional future channels. So one of the common misconceptions is that, like, if you get up to 20,000, 30,000 followers on Instagram, if you start a TikTok account, that you'll instantly have 20,000 followers on TikTok, but it doesn't work like that. Like, very few people will, unless you're like Molly May or Stephen Bartlett or something, people aren't going to follow you to your different channels. So if you're getting into kind of this type of strategy, thinking, well, I'll just start with one and then branch out, you can obviously totally do that, but you are going to be starting from pretty much scratch any time you start on a new channel. So option 2 then is to just try and be everywhere at the start. You've got more opportunity for virality there, simply because you're going to have more hands in play. Virality is not really the end game, but it can help, especially in the early stages. You get more data to review and double down on. So again, simply because you're putting out more content in more different ways, you can learn more about what works and what doesn't. The cons are pretty massive, in my opinion. Like, the recipe for burnout is huge. Personally, I've tried to be on all the social channels at once, and I found that I just wasn't actually doing the thing that I get paid to do. I spent more of my day doing bloody social media, which is not the point. So it's a huge recipe for burnout. It's very hard to scale efficiently, especially if that starts to work and you start to get some clients through the door. The hours in the day you have to dedicate to social media will slowly reduce, which is what you want. And you risk never breaking out and gaining that reputation. So if you're constantly not managing to kind of break out of any of those channels, then you're not going to become known for what you do. You're not going to be able to build up that authority, and it's going to potentially make the strategy a lot less effective. So for me, my advice is to pick one. And that doesn't mean you can't be on multiple ones, but definitely pick one channel that is going to be your main focus and the main place that you do the majority of your content. So then the question is, which channel, right? So there's a million different channels to choose these days. You will find people who have been successful in every single one. So, there's people who have done YouTube who've done incredibly well. There's people who focus on Instagram. There's TikTok stars, there's all that. So for me, it comes down to four main areas, or 4 main factors as to deciding what you should choose. So the channel you want to focus on, if you're going to focus on mainly one, you want it to have discoverability. You want it to have longevity in terms of the content. So if you put out a tweet now, it's going to be relevant for maybe a couple of hours, then it's gone. If you put out a YouTube video, that video could be relevant for years. So in terms of value for the time you put in, that's a really important factor to keep in mind of the channel that you're going to focus on. Next is longevity for you. So yeah, okay, making YouTube videos might be really good for the longevity of the content and the discoverability, how people can find it. But if you hate making YouTube videos and you really have to struggle to get it done, then you're going to quit, basically. And you want to be doing content that you can continue to do for forever, really. And then, of course, value. So where do you think you can provide the most value? So if you're, really good at expressing yourself in the written word, then you should focus on that. If you're really good at in front of a camera, then you can provide more value there. So it's not just about the channel and your business, it's about you as an individual as well. So I think long form written content is one of the best, if not the best, channels to focus on. And to take it back to these kind of 4 areas, discoverability. So it's all well and good to put content out there, but you need people to be able to find it. That's why podcasts are really so difficult, because there's not really any good search for podcasts. There's not like an algorithm like there is on YouTube that can bring those to the top. If you type in search terms into like Spotify or Apple Podcast app, the results are really crap. So you need to have some content that is either pushed out on social algorithms or is findable via search. And 68% of online activities start with a search engine. So that could be YouTube. YouTube is a search engine. Could be Google, could be Bing and random ones like that. But you need something that is findable by search. And the written content, blogs and websites is a huge component of that. Written content is also really easily repurposed to other social platforms. You can easily cut down a blog post, put it on LinkedIn, take the best lines out of it, put it on Twitter, Substack newsletters, things like that. So in terms of discoverability, I think it works really, really well. Longevity, when you put a blog post on your website, it will be there forever. It will probably drive traffic for many, many years. And as long as you update it, it can basically always stay relevant and discoverable. The next one is really interesting, and Rachel and I were just actually talking about this before we jumped on, but the longevity of the actual content itself is unlimited, really, and that's because it's easily outsourced. You know, if you're the face of a YouTube channel for your business, that can be great. It's very discoverable. The longevity can be really good. You can provide a lot of value, but eventually you might get sick of being in front of camera, or might not have the time to be in front of camera. The problem is you can't outsource that. You can't just hire somebody to come and be the face of your YouTube channel. I mean, you probably can, but it's very difficult to do. And it's a very big ask for your target audience and your clients and your customers to all of a sudden just accept a new person in front of the camera. Long form written content is very, very easy to outsource. So you can do it all yourself in the early stages. As the business starts to grow, you can very easily get writers who can match your tone of voice, and no one's going to sort of see any difference in who's actually written it. It can still be your ideas, it can still be your expertise and your knowledge, but just the actual physical act of sitting down and writing that can be done by somebody else. And then value. You know, I'm sure we all, we all Google everything all the time. Well, I definitely do. And there's a huge amount of value you can get, especially if you do it in the right way, where you're not making a sales pitch in your content. You know, if you are truly trying to answer people's questions and help them, you can provide a lot of value with long form written content. So for me, I just think it's awesome, and I think every business should be doing it. For you specifically, for your business specifically, it also has a lot of benefits as well. So it starts to create a library of knowledge and expertise. It shows you as a person or a business that has authority, and that builds trust. You know, if you go onto a website, if you type something into a question into Google, and a website comes up and answers your question, automatically there's some cachet there. You feel like that business has knowledge about the thing that you want, and that's cool. But maybe you don't want to buy anything from them right now. Then say in 2 weeks' time or a month's time, you Google another question in a similar vein, and the answer comes up on that same website. The more that type of thing happens, the more you become known as an organization, a company, a person who is knowledgeable and can provide value in that space. And then eventually, when that person does want to buy or does need a service, you are going to be the person that comes to mind. And that's important for potential new clients, but also for your existing clients as well. And the more questions you answer, the more it builds up. It builds up a knowledge base for those people. And you know, it's really, really powerful if your client emails you a question and says, "Oh, hey, I need some help with this particular tax issue." If you're an accountant, you can go back with an email that answers the question. That's good. But if you can give them an answer to the question and say, "Oh, hey, by the way, I actually did a deep dive on this on my website. Here's the link to that." Not only do you have the answer to the question, but you already had the answer to the question. You didn't have to look it up and come back to them. You automatically have more expertise in that person's mind because you have already looked at this and created some content around it. And not only that, down the line, it also just makes your process much smoother. You know, you can answer a lot of those queries before they ever kind of get to you. Can be shared for years. So obviously content, like I say, lasts a very long time online. Naturally drives inbound links. So again, if you're providing real value, not only are you going to start getting links from Google search, but you will also get links from other websites as well. So, you know, other companies, other news outlets, that sort of thing, will begin to link to content that is high value, and therefore you're getting access to a whole new reach of different people. Pre-qualifies your customers on your behalf. So again, I'm a big fan of things like putting pricing on the website. I think that's really valuable, as well as covering in detail all about the services and things you provide. And what that means is that the people who find your website, whether that's from Google or whether that's from social media, they'll learn a lot more about what you do, and then they will decide whether that's a fit for them. So you're not going to have to spend half your week on calls that are a waste of everybody's time, because people won't book a call with you if they think that you don't do what it is that they're looking for. So it makes those calls much more efficient, and then shortens your sales funnel. So I think the old saying was, like, but kind of pre-internet, was that you had to have 18 touch points with a potential new client before they would actually become a client. Now, back in the day, that's like knocking on the door 15 times, calling them a bunch of times, inviting to an event, like really, really long and difficult sales process. Now you might have 15 or all of those touch points before you've ever even knew that person existed. So, they could read 3 blog posts on your website. They could then follow you on LinkedIn or on Instagram. They could interact with 5 or 6 posts on LinkedIn or Instagram. They'll then go watch a video of yours on YouTube. And by the time that they're actually going on your website and clicking the button that says book a call, they're already doing business with you. And again, that's how I ended up doing business with Rachel. That's how I wanted her to be my accountant. I had a number of different experiences with her just through social media. By the time we actually got to that call, I wasn't talking to other accountants. I didn't even care what her fees were, to a certain degree. Don't double them, please, now, Rachel. But the point is, when I got the proposal through, it was if it would all look reasonable, which it did, I'm good to go. I wasn't then comparing that to somebody else. It was I knew Rachel, I knew her business, and I was ready to go. She didn't have to, spend 5 hours talking to me on the phone to get through all that. So you can't talk about long form written content without talking about SEO. And I'm going to go through that as well. So SEO stands for search engine optimization. And whenever you are creating long form written content for your own website, you need to be creating that. Well, you don't need to, but at least a certain component of it, you have to be thinking about what is findable on Google. Now, not all of your content has to be based on SEO. Some of it can be about answering questions for your clients that you can refer them to. Some of it maybe is about creating white papers and detailed guides that create a level of authority and trust for people who are already aware of you. But if you're going to make the most of it, you need to at least have a sizable component of your content designed to be found on Google. And I'm going to explain how you do that. The problem with SEO, and if any of you have started to look into this world, is it's made out to be really, really complicated, right? Especially there are SEO agencies out there who, don't get me wrong, they provide a lot of value. And especially for bigger businesses who have big budgets and are going after competitive terms, then SEO is really, really important, like the technical stuff. So all these different terms that I've got, backlinks, bounce rate, domain authority, EAT, CTR, CMS, no follow links, all that kind of stuff. That becomes really, really important if you're going after really competitive terms. Where I think smaller businesses and newer businesses need to focus is not on those most competitive terms, because you're never going to beat big, massive companies with literally million pound a year budgets for SEO. But where you can actually really kind of game the algorithm is by answering really specific questions for clients within your target audience. And that is really literally all it comes down to. So the more specific, the better. So let me give you let's talk about an example. So let's say you're a personal trainer. If you try it and you're brand new, you've got a brand new website, you've recently qualified, you've got a rip 6-pack, but you don't have kind of the domain what's the term, reputation in the public yet. If you try to rank for a 6-pack ab workout, you are never going to rank for that, because there are billion-pound companies who are going to come up on the first, second, third pages of Google. If, on the other hand, you are trying to rank for best places to work outdoors in South Manchester, you could probably rank for that. And the good news is that not only is that going to mean that if somebody's typing that into Google, you're more likely to come up, but actually that person is much more specific to the target clientele that you're looking for. If your search term that you're trying to target was 6-pack ab workout, you're going to get people from from Scotland, from Wales, from China, from all over the world who are looking for that content. And that's not necessarily going to be your target market if you are a personal trainer who lives and does in-person consultations with people in South Manchester. If you get very specific about the question that you're answering, you can easily rank for that. So again, sticking on that example, if you could write that article, best places to work out outdoors in South Manchester. You could say, okay, these are some really good parks you can try. These particular places have some really good outdoor equipment. Personally, I really like to set up my equipment in this area. Let's take a snapshot, like a screenshot from Google Maps, put a little circle on it. I think that's really great. There's a water fountain right here. Like, if you can answer that, that's going to mean that people are going to go on that website. They're going to get a lot of value from that. And they're going to be like, shit, this person really understands me. They really understand what I'm looking for. And once you start looking for really specific questions like that, there are millions. People talk about SEO being saturated or niches being saturated. Nothing is saturated. It's all about being very specific about who it is you're targeting and what questions those people have. And I want to go over an example. So when you're talking about saturation and difficulty of a niche, one of the ones that is the most competitive niches in the world is finance, money. And that's because money is a very lucrative industry. So there are lots of companies with a lot of money themselves, big banks, big investment firms, crypto stuff, where they will literally spend £1 million a month on keeping themselves on page one of Google because it's worth it. Banking is very, very lucrative. Investments are very, very lucrative. So I wanted to kind of test this theory myself. So I decided at the start of the year that I was going to create a website in the financial niche, about as difficult as you can get. And I was going to see if I could rank and I could drive traffic from Google. And so that's what I did. So I started creating content that was asking specific long tail questions. And long tail is a term for like the search term. So short tail is like best pension, best stock to invest in. Long tail is best pension for a teacher who is 10 years away from retirement. So long tail is those very, very specific ones I was talking about. So when I created this website, it was brand new domain. It was a crap domain. It was The Hedge, which was my podcast name, but it was like .io because the .com wasn't available. So Google doesn't really like funny things like that. So it was a really complicated, really competitive niche, pretty crappy domain, brand new domain. So I bought it from GoDaddy. It never had existed before. So again, that's something that Google looks at. How long has that domain been around? Therefore, how trustworthy is it? So I was playing this on hard mode is basically what I'm saying. And I focused only on long tail search terminology. And these are the results. So you can see I started basically at the start of the year. The first, 3-4 months, it was very, very little in the way of traffic. Most of the content, I was doing a lot of content in total over the course of kind of 9 months. I did about 70 different articles. So I was doing 1-2 a week, all targeting long tail search terms. And you can see that by around, April, May time, the traffic started to tick up. And the blue line there is the purple line is the impression. So an impression is just when your result shows up on Google. So if you Google something, there's a whole bunch of results that turn up on the page. If your result is on that page and somebody sees it, then that is an impression. And then the click, which is the blue line, is when they actually choose your page. So you can see that they started to tick up. Overall, in the last 11 months or so, there's been 1.5 million impressions. So my website, people have seen the name of my website and seen my snippet 1.5 million times. And of that, drove just under 55,000 clicks onto the website. So the click-through rate, which is at 3.6% there, 3.6 is actually pretty good. Like anywhere between 2 and 4 is considered kind of decent. Obviously, that's getting towards the top range of that. So it might seem low, but that's good. And that means that there's 55,000 people that have come to my website. Now, just think about like that's over the course of 11 months. Think about how powerful that could be if you were getting 5,000 people a month coming to your website. They're not all going to buy from you. You're not going to want them all to buy from you. They're not all going to be people who are your ideal client. But you only need a very small fraction of those people to actually end up doing business with you to have a very strong and sustainable pipeline of potential new clients. The other key thing about this is I did nothing else from an SEO standpoint. I didn't build any backlinks. I made this site on Squarespace. I didn't do anything to try and like make the speed faster, because again, that's something you always hear about. Oh, you need a fast website to make this work. And I did nothing other than create the content. I want to also point something else out to you, and maybe some of you have noticed it already, but you'll see that actually the last few months content, the traffic started to drop off. So was this just a flash in the pan? Was this a fluke? No, actually what happened was I stopped creating content on there. So I did that on purpose as well. I wanted to see kind of how things would play out if you stopped creating content. So around, I think August-ish time, I just stopped putting new articles on there. And you can see that then it's actually started to fall off now. And that's what I expected to happen. And I think that's something that's really, really important to keep in mind for your own content strategy, is you have to do this forever. But the good news is you don't have to do it at the same pace. So for me, I was doing 2-3 articles a week initially. But one of the things that Google is wanting to look at is they want to make sure that the websites are regularly updated, because to them, that's a signal that the content is relevant, right? Because if you have a blog that hasn't been updated for 10 years, the likelihood is that that's not going to be up-to-date, relevant information anymore. So by feeding it, 1 article a month, 2 articles a month, something like that, you're kind of giving a signal to Google that this content is still updated. There's still someone looking at it to make sure it's relevant. So I expect this to continue to drop now. But if I hadn't, I could have slowed my pace down. If I'd stuck to maybe 1 a week, couple 2-3 a month, then the process would have continued. But that's kind of, as I say, really simple, very low budget, just kind of gives you an idea of what is possible. I think anyone would be happy to get 5,000 new eyeballs on their website every month. So I want to go through, got about 10 minutes left. I want to go through kind of how you can implement this yourself. So hopefully that's giving you a little bit of a buy-in of like why it can be really powerful. And I guess just to go back one, like that I want to stress that's achievable for anybody. And I also want to stress that you shouldn't expect immediate results from this. And you can see there that it took a number of months of consistent, quite a high level of content to be able to start to see this to happen. So if you decide to do this yourself, just remember that you should go in expecting to stick at it for at least a year before you start to see like any decent levels of traffic. But it's something that if you stick with, it can be really beneficial. So how do you do it yourself? There's a number of different ways to approach this. So the first part of creating a plan for your own blog on your own website is the research. Like, what are you actually going to write about? And this can be one of the things that people get a little bit bogged down and a little bit stuck on. But I can promise you that once you start to do this, it becomes easier and easier. Personally, what I used to do is just keep like a notes thing on my phone. And if I came across a good topic throughout the day, I would add it on there, and then I just have a big long spreadsheet of all of my different content ideas. And you'll find that over time, as you start to add to that, you'll end up with heaps and heaps of different ideas. But let's go through these specifically. So if you're targeting SEO or the search engine optimization, it's really, really worthwhile using some of the tools that are out there that can help you with this. So Ahrefs, SEMrush, Surfer SEO, they are specific SEO tools, and they will help you find keywords that are underserved. So they have some really cool stuff where like you could type in the niche that you're in, the company, what you do, accounting, personal training, shoe sales, like whatever, and it will spit up a whole heap of different keywords in that niche. And you can see the keyword difficulty. You can see an estimate of how much traffic that gets every month. And you can start to get an understanding of some ideas around that. I think whenever you're doing that keyword research, do the sense check, right? So if there's some terminology on there, just go on Google and Google that thing and see what comes up. Have a look at the top 5 examples. Do they actually answer that question? Or is Google just throwing something that is kind of relevant, but not necessarily? So going back to my example before, best places to work out outdoors in South Manchester, I don't know, but I bet you if I Google that right now, the top couple of things would be best places or best like outdoor workouts or something. Like, it wouldn't actually answer that question because that question probably hasn't been answered. So just using Google around those kind of questions can be really, really useful. Those tools are expensive. Ahrefs and SEMrush are like over £100 a month. So what I tend to suggest, SEMrush has a free 7-day trial. So what I tend to suggest to people is like, bank out some time, like quite a few hours, and just go hard on that free trial. You come up with 100, 200 different topics, and that will set you up for, you know, a year or more based on that. But just keep in mind they are expensive if you want to do them regularly. That's from the SEO standpoint, but it's also really valuable just to think about your own business. Like, what questions are you getting asked all the time in your business? Just answer those questions. Even if they're not perfectly SEO optimized, they are going to provide value. They're probably going to rank for some terms. And it creates a part of that expertise, part of that, that kind of reinforcement loop of where you can send existing clients who have those questions. You can also ask questions about what you wish you'd known sooner when you got started in whatever it is that you do. You know, it's not just about trying to make sales or trying to attract your target audience with every single piece of content. It is also just about building up your expertise as a person or a business who is well known and knowledgeable about your industry as a whole. So don't be afraid to do some B2B type stuff. Get really specific about your specialization. So if you keep using the personal trainer example, that's just coming to my mind for some reason, but like, if you are someone who specializes in exercise for postpartum women, then get really specific around the content for that. Don't feel like you have to try and appeal to everybody. And then conversations in online communities are really, really useful as well. So one of the things that I used to do was go on places like Reddit. Reddit is a gold mine of information. If you don't use Reddit, you definitely should. Go on to like your subreddits. Like, so for me, it was like the personal finance subreddits, and look at what questions are getting the most interaction. Look at which questions are being asked a lot and don't necessarily have great answers. There's lots of those type of communities that can be really, really useful. When you're building out your plan, I think it can be really useful to build in some pillar content pieces. So these are longer form pieces where you do a deep dive into the things that you're really good at. So usually there's like 3 or 4 kind of areas of your business that are kind of the main things that you do. And these are the types of articles that can drive inbound content, inbound links. And also they're the type of thing that you can link to within your own website. So internal linking is really, really important. So, you know, if you're an accountant and you work really well with businesses in the construction industry, then a deep dive guide on, look, these are some of the key issues that face key issues from an accounting standpoint that people in the construction industry should be aware of. And that can be quite a broad thing. You can include graphics. You can have some soft calls to action. So, you know, just sort of highlighting that this is your specialty. And then anytime you're talking about answering those specific questions, like I'm going to butcher this because I'm not an accounting expert, but like, can a construction company claim a tax reduction for their employees' work vehicles, for example? You could have that as an article that then links to this bigger piece. So by the way, if you're looking for more information on, you know, how things that construction companies should be aware of from a tax standpoint, check out this detailed guide we've got. And over time, that will mean this particular piece becomes more and more relevant in Google's eyes because there's more and more things pointing to it. On top of those big pieces, you don't have to do heaps of those. I would say 3, 4, 5, 6 of those is plenty. You then, a good cadence for a blog is 1 post a week. So if nothing else, if you come away from nothing else from today, all I can do is strongly encourage you to try and write 1 blog post a week. Focus on those long tail keywords, answer those questions that you get, discuss topical news and stuff that's coming up. You know, things like the budget is good for people in finance. You know, if there's some new science that's come out, if you're in health and fitness, if there's new technology that's impacting your industry, all those things are really, really valuable. Have soft calls to action. So it's really important to keep in mind that these things shouldn't feel like a hard sell. People should feel like they are genuinely reading an article that provides value. You can have a soft call to action at the bottom that says, by the way, if you want to chat more about this, give us a call. But it shouldn't feel like a sales pitch, because people are just going to think that it's bullshit. The content is just nonsense there to try and drive sales. So it's all about being very careful about that. And honestly, often you can get away without having a call to action at all. People aren't silly. I don't know about you, but if I'm on a website and I'm reading something valuable and the thing answers my question, the next place my eyes go is like up to the top of the website. Like, who is this company? What do they do? Like, people aren't silly. They'll work that stuff out for themselves.
So we've had a question come in just saying, what do you mean by soft call to actions? But I guess you just answered that as well.
Yeah. So it's just not like hard sell. Like, one example I see often is like SaaS companies are really good at this. So if you're looking for like a CRM, or if you're looking for a what's an example, like an email provider, I don't know, website hosting, and you Google like top 10 CRM tools, which is like your customer database. Often you will find blog posts from CRMs on their website, like HubSpot, Salesforce, like whatever. If they provide a genuinely helpful list that includes all their competitors and stuff, you're going to take that with more, you're going to take that, you're going to find that more useful, and you're going to kind of believe the company more. If HubSpot did a blog post that was like, ignore all the other CRMs, they're all shit, ours is the best, like just sign up for ours today, you're not going to get any value from that, and you're going to be like, no, that's rubbish. So it's just about being soft with your selling in your content. And that's it in terms of the blog. Literally, write pillar posts, 4, 5, 6 of them, one time a week. Sit down. They only need to be like 1,000 words, 800 to 1,000 words, which might sound like a lot, but you'd be surprised if you know your area, which you all do. It's really not that difficult to bang out 1,000 words a week.
Katie has asked, could you set a blog up like using the LinkedIn article function, or do you recommend writing a blog on a different platform? So like having to set up your own website and make sure that it's ranking. Like, would using the LinkedIn function still rank?
Very good question. And that brings me on nicely to the next slide. So I strongly recommend you do it on your own website. And that's because LinkedIn, Medium, Reddit, like they don't need help getting traffic. And anytime you are putting your content on another platform, you are renting that space. You don't own that space. Look what's happening with Twitter right now, right? There's people who are built up audiences of hundreds of thousands of people on Twitter. It's still kicking, but like Twitter could hypothetically, like Elon Musk could destroy it. Everyone could quit, and Twitter's gone. Anytime you're putting something on a different platform that you don't own, there's a risk of that happening. Or not even that dramatic, but just like the algorithm changes and now no one goes to your content anymore. So I believe very strongly you should do it on your own website. But I also believe that that's one of the really powerful things about long form written content is you can easily repurpose it. So definitely write it on your own website. Literally Control-C, Control-V that bad boy into LinkedIn. This is like an example, right? So this is literally just a post that I put on LinkedIn. I've just copied and pasted this. I'm repurposing my LinkedIn post here. But this is like some ways you could turn one blog post into 10 different pieces of content if this is the strategy you want to go for. So you write your 1,000 word blog post. You can put that full post onto Medium, which is, you may not have even heard of that, but it's like a blogging kind of social network thing. Copy that blog post into as a LinkedIn article, summarize it down to 400 words, put that on a relevant Reddit sub. I'm just reading these out because it's really small, so you probably won't be able to read it. Cut that down to 200 words, do a LinkedIn post on that. Take the best couple of lines. You can do 3 or 4 tweets on that. That 200 word LinkedIn post becomes your script. So you could film a reel, which is obviously then a TikTok. It's also a YouTube short. You could even Facebook Reels now. And then if you wanted to as well, you could take the full blog post and that is the script for your YouTube video, like a full length YouTube video. So you don't have to do all those things, but I think having a long form written piece is a perfect and easy kind of base to then repurpose into lots of other different forms of content. As in as much effort or as little as you want. Like reposting onto Medium and LinkedIn literally take you less than 3 minutes to do both of those. So that's pretty much it. That's it. Hopefully I've sold you on the idea of having a blog. I think it's, yeah, definitely if you, even if you're just looking to get your feet wet, it's something you can start yourself. Don't feel like you need to go and pay a copywriting agency like mine, like out the gate, because it's not cheap, to be honest. Like if you're getting good content written, it's not something you can cheap out on. So write it yourself, do that for a year, see how you get on. If you're getting value, then maybe you can take some of that value and outsource it to someone else. But yeah, I can't recommend it enough.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, please.
So, like, what does working with a copywriter look like? Like, would I come to you and be like, I keep getting asked the same question all the time. I would really like to create some content about company vehicles and electric cars. Like, how much do you need from me? Like, what does it look like to work with a copywriter?
Really good question. So it's all about us understanding your business. So I want to know, like, who are you trying to target? What does your ideal client look like? What does your sales process look like? What are some of the words you want people to think of when they think of your business? And then it's all about us just building the strategy around that. So, what budget do you have? Because like anything, the more content, the better. Like if you can afford to do 10 posts, I have one client who does 30 posts a week. They're like a VC funded investment app in America. Like I'm not even there, and they have like 3 agencies. We all kind of share it. And I makes me shiver the amount that they spend on content each month. But it's about all those different things, and it's about us really understanding your tone of voice and what you're trying to portray. And then we put together a content plan. So, okay, we're going to do 1 post a week. We're going to do a summary newsletter. We're going to give you 2 LinkedIn posts a week. And then we're going to do that on a consistent basis. So yeah, it's just about us understanding what you do. And that's why working with writers who understand your industry is actually really, really helpful. Because like, if I'm trying to understand your business, but also your industry, that makes that quite difficult. If I already understand your industry, that cuts out a lot of that stuff. You can throw jargon at me. You can use all the strange acronyms and terminology, and like the person will get that. So regardless of your niche, I definitely would recommend trying to find someone who has written in that area before, or has a background in it, or understands it, because it does make the process a lot more straightforward.
So someone's asked, is there a perfect number of, I feel like I know the answer to this. Is there a perfect number of posts that help me launch efficiently my business? And then what kind of content is more informative?
So in terms of the perfect number, like I think 1 a week is a really good cadence. I think you could, if you want to keep things really simple, you could do like 1 a week and never do more than that, never do less than that. And that would work really, really well. But as I say, the more the better, right? So if you can afford to do 2 a week, either in your own time or in your marketing budget, then that's better. And that's purely because, and this is true regardless of whether you're talking about a small business with just you as the sole person working in it, or a really big company, there is no way to know which content is going to perform the best and drive the most traffic. And almost every website will have the 80-20 rule, where 20% of your content drives 80% of your traffic. And so the more at bats you have, the more content you have out there, the more likely it is you're going to hit on those ones that perform really, really well. And somebody posted up, I don't know, we don't have it in the UK. It's a company called Chewy, which is a pet food company, or like a pet company in America. They're massive. And the guy who runs their SEO shared that, and it was exactly the same for them. And they are a company who spends tens of millions every year on content. And it's the same thing. They have, I think it was 20% of their pages get 0 traffic from Google. And so that's the same for everybody. And what was the second part of that question? What's the most?
Yes, they've asked what kind of content is most informative. And I actually made a note while you were talking, like when you were running through the SEO tools, when I first started my YouTube channel, like when you're starting from scratch, it's very, very daunting. It's quite overwhelming. And like we have within our business an FAQ list. So if our team are getting asked questions, they can put the questions onto a list. And then my job is to create all of the content so that no one in my team is repeating themselves, answering the same question once. But when you've got like a ginormous list of questions that you get asked all the time, and like it's very, very overwhelming to start. And so at the very beginning, I used search listening tools, which are very, very similar to what Jason was talking about. There's one that's free that's called answerthepublic.com. And you can basically type in a couple of words and it tells you what people are searching on Google and YouTube within that area. So if I put like tax, accountant, and then my location, it would tell me with those keywords or phrases and sentences that include some of those words, these are the most high rank, like this is what people are searching for. And so at the very beginning of my YouTube channel, that's what I did in order to just sort of like, I had no way really of prioritizing my content because it all felt very big and scary. And so I use search listening tools to basically set myself up to do quite well on YouTube. So I was answering questions that I knew people really, really wanted. And so I would definitely recommend search listening tools. And I guess the content that's the most informative is the ones that would, Jason's talking about like the 10 different ways you can use content. Like Jason's then used that content today. He'll then use that content to answer other people's questions. And so, and definitely for us, it's having multi-purpose content. So for me, a YouTube video can be searched on YouTube for people to find the answers completely free. People can search it on YouTube to find the answers and then be like, oh, like she was pretty good. Like I'd quite like to work with her, and then they become clients. So people can search it and come in. They'll then search it and then cross-channel. I'll see them on TikTok and Instagram. And so like and then also the team can then use those videos to send to clients when they get those questions. We use those videos as part of our proposal process. So if I'm on only a 30-minute like sort of discovery call with somebody and they're asking me big questions, I'll say, I'll send you the answers to those, but let's get the most out of this call today. And so for me, like as a business owner, time is my capacity, time is my bottleneck. And so having content that you can repurpose and repurpose and repurpose and repurpose and turning it into like evergreen content that like I never really create YouTube content that has like a time limit on it. So evergreen content is my go-to. So what's the difference between a sole trader and a limited company? That'll really never change. So not mentioning specific tax thresholds, not mentioning like the tax rates that are relevant to the day I created it, not wearing Christmas jumpers in December. Like there's so many things that you can do to create content that's relevant forever.
Yeah,
I guess
definitely. The only thing I'd add to that is that's another area where those SEO tools are really, really good. So one of the things that they do is so like Answer the Public is awesome. And the SEO tools add to that like keyword difficulty. So they take into account, and again, that's quite complex thing that goes behind that. But they basically will look like if you type in sole trader versus limited company, they will assess, okay, who's on the front page of Google? How many links do those pages have? Like how authoritative is that domain? Like, is it H&R Block who have that top rank, or is it like bestaccountingtips.com.au? Like, so they look at all that stuff, and then that gives you a little bit more insight, is like, can I really rank for that, or can I not? And that can again help you prioritize, probably keep going for the lower hanging fruit, I guess, to begin with.
Cool. So we've done some Jason Mountford soft CTAs during the webinar, but give us the hard CTA. Like, tell us how we can find with you, how we work together. I know that you've offered, I think they're like 30-minute sessions. So anybody who's watched it today, if you signed up and you're watching on demand, anybody that's live can book some time in to talk to Jason completely free for half an hour. But like, tell us all about how we can work with you.
Yeah, awesome. So thank you guys for joining us. I really enjoyed doing it today. But look, if you do have any questions about copywriting, about content writing, about your brand voice, any of that kind of stuff, I'm more than happy to chat about it. And again, I'm not expecting any of you to become clients. I'm literally more than happy just to sit down and talk through your own plan and give you any help that I can. The website for my company is hedgecopy.com. My email address is just jason@hedgecopy.com. So if you jump on there, you can see the link to book a call and stuff. So yeah, more than happy to have a chat with you if you want any help.
Amazing. And where can people find you on social media if they want to start following your journey, they want to start like listening to you, reading all of the blogs that you're putting out? Like, where can people find you?
Yeah, so I am on like all the social media, but most of it's not really updated these days. The one place where I'm fairly active is on LinkedIn. So if you just search for my name, Jason Mountford, make sure Google doesn't autocorrect that to Jason Manford. I get that all the time. I actually had someone email me like just this week saying, oh, I think it's amazing the work you're doing fundraising for this Russell Trust. And I was like, what's going on here? And then I realized it was actually the comedian Jason Manford that I don't know how she got my email, but anyway, yeah, so LinkedIn, just search me on there. I'm always happy to connect with new people.
Amazing. So thank you so much for spending some time with me and Jason this morning on a Friday morning. We're very, very grateful. yeah, let us know in the comments if you've had a good time. Yeah, like talking about what Jason's done today on social media is a great way to support Jason, get more people into Jason's audience and support him as a business owner and as a content creator. So thank you so much for spending some time with us today. I hope to see you all again very soon.